Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the 22 Panels Comic Strip Book Club. Carl Krumholtz sends his apologies this time around, but Jonathan Baylis has joined us. Did you
Whoa.
manage? I don't think you managed to join us the last time, did you? So this is your
I didn't.
first,
No,
isn't
I,
it?
I, I missed it. It was like my wife was out of town or
Yeah,
something.
something like
She's out of
that.
town
And
today too, but
yeah,
I'm here. I'm right
and,
here.
and Sean Harklerode is back, literally sitting outside the City Lit Theater in Chicago, where he's just performed in Murder in a Cathedral. And Bob Sikoriak, as always.
Is
So
that
good
the
to see
sequel
you
to
all
Panic
again.
and Disco?
What?
Isn't that the sequel to Panic at the Disco? Is that?
I think it's the other way around.
Oh, got it. Got it.
I mean, Elliot goes back a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um, so Bob, this has been we're going to talk George Herriman this month, and this is the one that you have been pitching to me since we finished with Dick Tracy a year ago. So tell me what you love about George Herriman and Crazy Cat, and we'll go from there.
Well, it's I I have to say I was not prepared to do the introduction, but I'll do my best. Uh,
Sorry.
that's okay. That's fine. That's fine. It's
You're a pro.
I'm just warning everybody. This will not be the most
It's a book
eloquent.
club.
This is not the most eloquent statement for the greatest comic strip ever created. However, this is the greatest comic strip ever created. So I first got into Crazy Cat. I think I saw it, probably saw it in small reprints in the Smithsonian collection of comic strips that many cartoonists grew up loving. Saw it in small doses. There is an explosion of books of them available now, but I had originally just seen it a page here, a page there. I was immediately taken by the art, the and Jonathan is holding up his copy of
My God, but it's the background is there. You
yeah,
go. That's the copy.
the comic art of
But
George Herriman.
not that we publish video.
Yes, I have that.
You don't record the video. You don't put the video
Well,
out.
I mean, we record the video, but we don't put it anywhere.
Oh, I just want them to see how good looking we all are.
Are you kidding me? I mean, maybe if we center you, you got your hat and your
That's it.
cleanly
That's all I
kept
got. That's all I got for
goatee
me.
and your bricks.
Yes. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead.
That's okay. Thank you. Yeah, so I originally saw it in small doses. I was immediately taken by the art because the comic has this incredibly spontaneous rendering style. It feels like scribbles. It feels like doodles. It feels very immediate, completely antithetical to the kind of comics that I personally make. And I think that's one reason I am attracted to it, because I love people who can make something feel so alive and immediate. So I was originally drawn to the drawing style. It comes out of like early newspaper comics, very scritchy pen work. Just really feels like doodling. And then when you start reading it, it is written in this very poetic style, which I think I've said before on this podcast. I think the best way to read some of these strips that are written in dialects is to read them out loud. I feel like that's the best way to sort of get into the rhythm of them. If you're trying to read it on the page, the slang and the dialects can feel a little impenetrable. But when you speak it out loud, you can kind of hear the poetry of it and the fun of it. So you may look at this strip and go, "What is this?" It looks cool. The panel layouts are really interesting and constantly inventive from strip to strip in the Sundays in particular, sometimes in the daily strips. Um, and then as you start to read it, you can sort of get into the rhythms of the drawing and appreciate all of those aspects. And then just the strip is based on this very simple triangle of characters. You could call it a love triangle or you could call it a hate triangle. There's a cat who's in love with a mouse, and the mouse hates the cat. The mouse throws bricks at the cat, and the cat perceives that as a sign of affection. The strip is from 1913. already like violence as romance is maybe weird. If you look at the strip, you'll understand this is so abstract. It's such an abstracted world. A mouse, a cat, and a dog. The mouse hates the cat. The cat loves the mouse. The dog loves the cat. So our relationships between animals is flipped. Cat loving mouse, dog loving cat, and the dog is always capturing the mouse and sending him to jail. So I'm describing this, it's seeming very arcane. All I can say is if you look at a couple of strips, perhaps you'll immediately see the fun and the spontaneity of the drawings. And then as you dig into it, you see the dynamics of these three characters together. And it's a vaudeville strip. It was created around 1913. It's very old-fashioned, jokey comic strips, but there's an amazing amount of poetry. The characters live in this abstracted landscape of the Southwest of America. Big vistas, cacti, trees. There's this constantly shifting landscape. It's almost like the whole landscape is a mirage. And without seeing it, I'm really not doing it justice, but there's lots of levels to the strip. It looks like a goofy strip about a mouse that throws a brick at a cat, but there's a certain poetry and true love and romance in it. At least the love of the creator for his characters, if nothing else. It's really a wonderful strip, and Charles Schulz was inspired by it. Bill Watterson was inspired by it. Lots of cartoonists that people today love were inspired by it. It is over 100 years old now, but it is a beautiful example of the kinds of comics that we're making in that time, and it does feel super immediate. He's a great writer of this kind of nonsense slang / poetry, and he is truly a romantic soul, the creator, George. So I have a lot to say. I didn't put it into boxes properly, but you hopefully get the idea.
I mean, I'm going to jump in and comment some, because what we talked about briefly off air and why we threw it to Bob first is, I at least, and I'm not going to speak for everybody else, but had trouble really connecting to it and certainly reading it in any sort of bigger chunk. Which part of what Bob reminded us is that, you know, it was never really designed for bigger chunks. You read your Sundays once a week. You read your dailies daily if you happen to get the paper every day. But
how big were these reproduced? Like I mean, the collections that, you know, like you and I were looking at the same book, that one that Patrick McConnell.
Well, and I was also
wrote.
reading a lot of the digital ones on Fantagraph or on Kindle and through Fantagraphics. And my hunch is they're actually significantly smaller. I mean, these look like full newspaper page.
Yeah.
So I think that we have probably never read them at more than half size.
There is as there often is with these cases, there's a Sunday Press book that came out, which I own, which is, I'm going to guess, is about...
I have looked at some of the dailies because I came across the big panoramic 1920 dailies.
Fantagraphics did a book of those, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
At a Half Price Books, and since I knew that we were going to be talking about Herriman eventually, I grabbed it then.
But Bob, they like the Winsor McKay stuff, like Nemo. They also did a tall.
They were full size. Yes,
my brother has the full size Nemo. It's
yeah.
So the Krazy Cat book that Sunday Press put out, I believe, is about 15 by 20. It's slightly smaller than the Nemo. This is 10 years after Nemo.
Right.
Herriman was not the popular success, although he had his fan base, but he was not the popular success of.
Well, most importantly, Hearst.
Yeah, he had the right fan base. When William Randolph Hearst loves it.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it sounds like he sometimes had to fight with his editors to keep it in the papers and
Yeah,
essentially
I've
go,
heard
I
that.
own the paper. Do you want to keep working? But it also seems like it moved around. It wasn't always in the comics section. Sometimes it was in the drama and art section.
Right.
You get
Right.
letters complaining about it being that's the part that just blows my mind, that somebody would bother to write a letter to a newspaper to say, why are you wasting a page of the space with this?
Because newspapers were the medium. This was the place to be.
Yeah, I still don't understand why you don't just turn the page and write about the things that you like or want more of, rather than don't give me any more of that crazy cat. I hate having to turn the page.
Well, that's true.
Have you
I
ever read any comments ever about
No,
anything?
I'm fully aware of how, and I suppose this is before the
Karens have
internet,
been with us
so
forever.
Trolls, always
But
trolls.
what I do want to center on, because while I still haven't really wrapped my head around the poetry of the language, um, I definitely like my favorite strips so far are almost always silent ones. Um,
Hmm.
in part because I haven't wrapped my head around that poetry of the language. It's and I need to work with it more, because almost anytime I read something in a dialect, it takes me time to it took me time to realize how deliberate Mark Twain was with language.
Hmm.
And I love his writing now. And I've actually seen a couple of Twain references made in talking about Herriman as I've been preparing for this. So I'm certain that there will be a point. But I do love some of the things they started doing with page format. It almost felt like he flipped a switch in um 1916. Is that or
Couple
yeah,
years in.
1916, where on June 25th there are 19 panels in the Sunday strip.
Hmm.
At
Get your money's worth.
at and on July 2nd it's down to 10, and they're not all strictly panel. They're here, let me
one
since
of
I've
the
got it right.
things one of the things to remember about these old strips, which is so exciting, is they're inventing it as they're going.
Yeah.
Harriman tried a lot of different strips out. He used to work in the offices with other cartoonists. They would hang out, they would socialize, and they were sort of figuring out the formats. And he certainly tried out other characters before Krazy Kat clicked for him. And I think you can kind of see that experimentation in the Sundays. It's the Sundays started out in black and white, and they didn't get color until the 30s. And even then, the style sort of shifted again a little bit to sort of be more. Um, I mean, maybe it was just a matter of age, but from what began as very kind of loose doodling became much tighter and flatter in terms of, well, the color was flat on these very carefully graphically designed characters. Um, and yeah, there's this sense of experimentation about it, which I also find super exciting. And the sense of like evolution. It's not like he went to Hearst and said, "Hey, I have an idea for a strip with a cat." It basically, Krazy Kat was introduced as a secondary character in another strip, and it was like he got into that cat, people started liking the cat, and then that grew into its other strip. So there's this constant evolution all the way through.
I know that this isn't great for our listeners, but I'm sharing the screen now from late June 1916, and everything had been a lot like this, just jammed panels that were probably much easier to read in a full newspaper size, but like even reading on my iPad, I had to go panel by panel because it was just too
I can't even imagine
crammed.
reading it on a tablet. Yeah.
Right. And then just look at the way it opens up and the art becomes like literally these are the next 4 weeks. I mean, the panels don't completely go away, but
Mhm.
he starts playing more with the landscapes. He starts playing with I love it when he's got him sledding or I think he's actually using soap to slide down a hill, so he has the panels fall over, and it's like everything that I'd heard Bob talk about Harriman just suddenly appeared like 2 years into my reading. And I'm like, okay, so the problem was I was reading to, and this one I love, out at sea with the waves. Um,
Well, so remember when Bill Watterson decided to stop doing the standard format for Calvin and Hobbes comics, the Sunday
right,
comics. He switched to a format. He said, when he took a sabbatical, he came back. This is Bill Watterson. Took a
right,
sabbatical, came back to the Syndicate, said, give me a half a page. I don't want to have to like make my panels regimented so they could be reorganized.
right,
So he
right,
started having a half page strip. It had to be printed that way, and he could do whatever he wanted within that page. And he was really
right.
trying to go back to the earlier forms of
Yeah,
comics, which was
yeah.
what Herriman and a lot of those guys got to do. I mean,
Oh yeah, no, what
Early McKay is the same way. It's just
I,
sort of
I
like,
had I had I had no idea how much of the things that I thought were innovative in like the 70s through early 2000s, Winsor McKay had been doing in the 19 aughts.
right,
Yeah.
And they
right,
just vanished for all those years because of the need to cut panels up, and different papers had different sizes, etc. um
all those
I mean,
letters are complete.
I remember being shocked as a kid when, I would like go to another town or something like that and look at a Sunday paper and realize that like my New York Sunday paper would, which was just shoving all these comics into a, Sunday's Funnies section. Other papers elsewhere, you would see they had a whole other tier. I was like, there's a whole other tier. There's like 3, 4 more panels to the
Right,
thing, and like the idea that they had to come up with just a separate gag connected to the title of the strip. I
right.
mean, it's what the syndicates. I mean, I don't know the theory behind how the syndicates got them to do that. Where it's like, all right, here's 3 wasted panels that'll go to a couple of podunk towns. Do that. I don't know when that happened, but I mean, I was totally blown away when I saw that like other papers had more panels.
right.
And the idea that Bill Watterson, had enough power at one point to just be like, no, no, you're giving me a half a page and you're letting me do whatever I want with it, and you can't cut it. And
Right.
like, that was what the last time any cartoonist had any power ever. Like,
It was one of them. The thing about it,
yeah.
the other thing I wanted to mention about it was Watterson said it was much harder to do that.
Mm,
He said, but he wanted to do it.
Right.
yeah.
It's not, and that's the thing about the Krazies as well. It's just like he could have just done 12 panels a
Right.
week. Like, I mean, Popeye was pretty standardized. Popeye had the upper and lower strips at a certain point, but basically Popeye had the regimented
Well, I mean,
panels. But Popeye was more verbally driven in some ways, and Crazy Cat was more, a feeling
I,
again, had that improvisational feeling to it. So
I mean,
this worked for him.
of the artists that we've looked at so far, we looked at, Dick Tracy and Chester Gould was pretty regimented.
Yeah.
Not always the same number of
Well,
panels,
that's
but
his
pretty
worldview.
close. Right.
That's Chester Gould is like black and white, panel after panel,
Right.
like
And
very
then and then
regimented, good and
then
Yeah.
evil.
then Roy Crane was more like this,
Right,
where whatever was gonna tell his story in the way he wanted to tell it, but he was also I've seen modernistic and impressionistic used for Harriman, and that Roy Crane was not. Roy Crane was still um very
Well, it's narrative.
classic, yeah,
Yeah,
narrative
it's
cartooning.
narratively driven. Yeah, I mean that's
Right.
the thing. That's the other thing about Herriman. I don't read a lot of poetry, but it's poetry. It's not, there's these
I
situations that
do, and
repeat, and there's these
yeah,
variations of a theme that come up every week, but
yeah,
it's really all about the moment. It's about
right.
the incident, not the like narrative thrust through 30 pages or whatever. I mean, sometimes he would do
There's a
longer
reason.
stories.
There's a reason E. E. Cummings wrote the introduction to the first collection.
Yeah.
Right. And he wanted, I mean, he was a fan. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he would have people send him the clips in Paris.
Oh wow. Speaking of Popeye, do you think Seagar was inspired by some of the similar use of sort of phonetic language and playful wording in Thimble Theater and Popeye? Because it's funny, when a bunch of years ago, I was reading some of those Fanta collections of Popeye, and my like ADHD brain was like, oh, I got to make a list of all these words and how they're used and create my own little glossary. And I abandoned that idea. But when I was reading Krazy Kat, I was like, oh, there's a similar thing where he's playing around with the pronunciation of words and the spelling of words. And do you think Seagar was inspired by Herriman, or is that just sort of coincidence?
I think that was in the air. I mean, there were so many of the early strips were playing with like racial stereotypes and dialects. There was so much of that. Like, even like, I guess going back to like Yellow Kid, and even his like the phrases on his shirt would be misspelled. I guess that's
Right.
because the idea was the character couldn't spell, but maybe he also didn't learn to talk so good.
Sure.
So I'm not sure where it came from. I mean, it's like they're all kind of inventing this stuff at the same time. I mean, he's a contemporary of Herriman, well, a little younger, but I mean, what did Thimble Theater start in the 20s?
A couple of years after, right? Like if
Yeah.
Krazy Kat is what, like 1913, I think Thimble Theater is like 1919 or something.
Yeah. That sounds right. Yes.
Okay, I just have to, Sean, you're missing this because you're so
it's
kind
visual.
You're
Sean
but
represents
I'm just
the
sharing
audience.
my screen here.
Take me a
'cause I was
picture
just-
with your words, Ted.
Yeah. Well, I was just flipping through pages. Another one of the digitals that I've got borrowed from Hoopla is the 1925 to 1927 and March 22nd, 1925. And I know it's a lightning bolt, but doesn't that just look like an inverse of Charlie Brown's shirt?
Oh, funny.
I forget who brought that up. You were not the first person to mention that. I cannot remember. Was it in? I don't remember if it was in Michael Tisserand's book, but someone mentioned that connection, which I never thought of before. So you did
again,
too.
I never thought
That's
of it
wild.
until I was flipping through, and but doesn't it?
There's a drawing of Ignatz hitting Charlie Brown that Schultz drew around 1950.
Okay.
It's in one of the books. He didn't see Krazy until I think until after he got back from the war.
Okay.
I mean, Schultz didn't see it till after he got back from the war. He might have seen the book that Cummings wrote the introduction for.
Right.
But he was like, if I can do something like this, or close to this, that would be amazing. So
yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna have to work more with the words because and this is one of the reasons why I love it when I can just flip through pages when I'm talking on book clubs, because sometimes when I look at comics where I'm just looking at them, I'm just taking in the art of the page rather than trying to bring the art and the words together. I go, oh my, this is really something. I still feel an inconsistency, but I feel that with most comic strips, I think it has to do with time constraints. Every time I hear or read comic strip artists writing about comic strips, they'll be honest about this was great and this was I needed to get a deadline.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Charles Schultz talks about, or I think I read Charles Schultz in one of the books that we were looking at for our Great Lost Charles Schultz episode. Said something along the lines of, yeah, I've got like 9 or 10 story ideas that I can do over and over again. So if I'm running behind and I don't know what to do, it's like, when was the last time Lucy pulled away the football?
Right.
But
that is a theme that people still quote from the strip, or at least reference.
Right.
And I think similarly, the cat getting hit with a brick by a mouse is something
but
he
I think
really came upon something that has resonance, maybe not as much as the football, but even so, has some resonance.
well, I mean, I would argue that without, I mean, just on a very, very surface level, without Crazy Cat, you have no Tom and Jerry, you have no Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, you have no Sylvester and Tweety. They're all built on the same basic premise.
Violence.
Yeah.
I don't, it's funny you say that because
But in a lot of ways, this is more intricate because it has that third character that the other
and
ones
it's
don't
not,
really have.
and it's, I mean, I don't know where the chase comes from, the cat versus mouse chase comes
Right.
from, but the relationship of the
I mean,
characters is so
reality,
different.
have you ever seen a cat when a mouse is in the room?
Well, I mean, they were more cat and mouse like in the first iteration when
Yeah.
they were in the family
Yeah,
family downstairs, I think the strip was.
something like that.
I'm embarrassed I can't remember the name. They were much more traditional cat and mouse, but it evolved into something else. If you're interested in reading a storyline, we reprinted when I was working for Raw Magazine in the 90s. We reprinted a series of dailies that actually had a narrative, and I think this has been reprinted since. It's called Tiger Tea, and it's about Krazy drinking this tiger tea, which essentially is a drug.
Which Raw was that in?
It was in the it was that's a good point.
That was those
Raw,
the Penguin collections, right?
Yes,
is that who published it?
yes, it's Raw Volume 2, Number 3, the last issue.
That's the last one, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah.
that the last one? Yeah.
Yes. So, but it's also been reprinted elsewhere. There's a lot of Crazy Cats. A lot of this stuff is in public domain or close enough that a lot of people have been reprinting it.
What is it? What is that title again? What is it? T?
Tiger
Tea. Yeah, I feel
Tea.
like that's what I heard was the only sort of narrative Crazy Cat sort of storyline.
It's the most famous one. I have not read all the dailies, but it's the most
I
famous
felt
one,
like
for sure.
sometimes there were at least three. I mean, even looking through the book that we centered on, there were often in the dailies part there'd be like 3 or 4 days in a row that were the same story.
Yeah, it's variations on a theme.
Right.
It's very, it's very, but the Tiger Tease strip is a couple of months long, if I'm remembering correctly. So it's a longer chunk. It's funny. It has more of the rhythms of a narrative that you might appreciate, Tad. It's same language,
Yeah.
same characters, but it's a little bit more straightforward.
But that reminds me that at some point I gotta try to get you, and through you anybody else. I think it would be fun to do like a round table of people that were involved in one of the older anthologies, and Raw would be a perfect one, just in part because I know you, but in
Sure.
part because it kind of, to me anyway, it stood above a lot of the other underground anthologies because it wasn't strictly underground.
Mhm.
It
It's
appreciated
post. Yeah,
history.
I mean it's
Right.
post art, post underground, post underground, which would be arcade.
Right.
It's new wave.
Yes, absolutely.
1980s, new wave, baby. It's
Right.
not underground, it's alternative.
Alternative.
I did just Google Crazy Cat Tiger Tea, and there's a page, and they took it from Raw Volume 2, Number 3, but there's a page that has all of the issues up, all of the pages up. So
yeah, I'm looking at a collection with an introduction by Craig Yo, of course. That makes sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of Crazy Cat material out there. I'm actually
It must be public domain at this point, right?
no.
No?
Well, I think it's the usual issue. If it's before a certain year, before 1925, it is. However, the name is trademarked, which is why Fantagraphics often puts their collections out as Krazy and Ignatz. which is
Yes.
not trademarked.
Gotcha.
But that's
yeah,
my.
this,
I'm not a lawyer. I always try to keep track of this stuff, but I'm
Okay.
not a lawyer. You
So
have to double
so
check me on that one.
so this I just have to like for should we have any like serious comic geek people that want to go find this in Raw number 3 we have
volume 2, number 3.
volume 2 number 3. It looks like along with um the Krazy Cat you've got
You
Museum
really
of
don't want to talk
Natural
about Krazy
History.
Cat. Anything else?
No, I'm just I go all over the place. But we got Ben Catcher, we got Lane Kaminsky Crum, we got Chris Ware, Drew Friedman, Richard Sala, Art, Justin Green, Gary Panter, Alan Moore, Kim Deitch,
We went out with a big finish.
Barry. Yeah, this is a ridiculous group of people. So yeah, more reason to go look for Russ sometime. But yeah, no, I again as I flip the pages of Krazy Cat, I love how it evolves. And I noticed this when I was looking through the book that you
Oh, Alan Moore's with
recommended,
Mark Bayer. Is it Bayer or Bayer?
Bayer.
Right? Bayer.
That
Dr. that hack.
I tended to like most of the stuff from the 30s and 40s more than the stuff from the teens, not exclusively. But I also appreciate that because so often, particularly when somebody's managing to make a living on one character, it gets stale. And it looks like Herriman continued to challenge himself, continued to try to do new and different things.
Yeah, I do think
Yeah.
that the addition of color kind of in the 30s kind of changed
Yeah.
the way he was making the strip.
Well-
And I think that added something to the structure of it.
Just on a side note, one of the things that I loved was how if he sent an original to somebody, he seemed to color most of them.
Yeah.
We have like random dailies that are colored because he gave them as gifts. And if he was going to give it as a gift, he took the time to color it.
Wow.
Which is just a really sweet and cool thing. The other thing I read like the first 100 pages, it's like 700 pages, so there was no chance that I was going to get through it. The biography of him.
Michael Tisserand, yes.
You're right.
Yeah.
He has a fascinating history.
Oh, yes.
Right.
I mean, he has been for a long time considered among the great and most influential cartoonists of all time. You're not the first person to call Krazy Kat the best strip ever, but it's really only in recent years that we've learned that he was a person of color that passed for most of his life. So, I mean, here we have an example of a way back when proof.
Yeah. And so much of the strip is about identity, even.
Yeah.
And Krazy is what Krazy's gender is.
It's fluid.
It's very fluid. The dynamics of the relationships between the cop, the authority figure, and the anarchist Ignatz, the mouse. And I don't think I even said their names. Officer Pup is the dog. Ignatz the mouse is the mouse, and Krazy is the cat. And just the dynamic of them and the shifting shifting perspectives on them and what we expect of them, the stereotypes we have of these characters.
Right.
The cat genuinely loves them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sincere character.
Yes,
Well,
very,
and
very sincere.
And I love that I want to say again, I didn't even manage to get through the whole apparently in ancient Egypt bricks were used as a delivery medium for love letters. So
No.
that's what it says in an essay here. Because of Krazy interprets these, and maybe this is just as part of it. It says, in case anyone isn't familiar with the strip, I'll explain the basics. Ignatz Mouse hates Krazy Cat, and this is from Martin Skidmore in his FA, The Comic Scene, writing about Krazy Cat, modernism, and influence. Hates Krazy Cat and expresses this by throwing bricks at the cat. Krazy interprets these attacks because of race memory of some events in ancient Egypt where bricks were used as a delivery medium for love letters as tokens of love. Officer Pop adores Krazy too and sees the brick throwing as simply a criminal assault and locks Ignatz up. It's really the bulk of the story, which ran until Herriman's death in 1944.
That's a very good summation of it. It's interesting that he included the thing about ancient Egypt because I think there's a strip that tells that story.
Right.
But it's interesting how people make anything that happens in a comic strip canon, and we have to like
and it does actually say that Krazy interprets these attacks because of race memory of some events in ancient Egypt. So it doesn't say specifically that that's true. The way it's worded here, it is saying that in the comic,
yes,
Krazy has memories of ancient Egypt. Where? So
there's no way that's true. There's no way that's true.
Well, I could
ancient Egypt's getting bricks.
Well, I think it's unlikely that throwing bricks was a way to but I could.
It's one way to get the point across.
Papyrus was expensive. You know, it was probably easier to carve into a clay brick. There's lots of clay in the Nile Valley.
Tad, if I knew you were going to bring this up, I'd have done some research. I think this is a dead end for the conversation.
Almost
Let's turn it back.
Well, I will say
Please go ahead.
Oh, I also had a tough time getting into it at first, but I did find that this book or this Krazy Cat, more than any other of our subjects, when I told people that we were doing Krazy Cat, people went crazy. People were like, "Oh my God, Krazy Cat! My dad loved Krazy Cat." Or I remember Krazy Cat when I was a kid. So more so than any of the other topics that we've done. So that really inspired me to push on. And I do think that it doesn't work great binging, but it is great to take in a few at a time and assess them.
I'm glad to hear that. I think that's true. I mean, it's all metaphor. Unlike Captain Easy or Dick Tracy, we don't have to deal with white guys in the 30s acting inappropriately. There's so much. It's a fantasy. It's a fable. So I think that makes it easier for us to approach it with modern eyes. Even though, I mean, there's so much meaning buried into it, as we sort of talked about in terms of identity and love dynamics and all that.
There's a lot of subtext. I don't know that there was a lot of subtext in Dick Tracy.
Right. No, it's all
Right.
on the surface. Absolutely. In Tracy.
The abstract, surreal nature of, how the backgrounds change. Oh, it's day. Oh, it's night. Oh, it's love. Oh, it's hate. It's all of the things. It's fascinating. It's a fascinating strip. I mean, I don't know that for me, it's like Crazy Cat is a strip that I latch onto with my heart necessarily. Like, like, oh, like a storyline, and I can relate. Um, but to look at it as a work of art, or as jazz, as comics, and and to just see it for the ideas that it inspires of what to do with comics in general. I mean, they're back in the day, they're inventing language, and today, we still think we're inventing comics language, and couple of people are, sure, but I mean, to really see the playfulness of the just sort of how words can be counter to what the visuals are, and to take a panel and throw it on its side, or throw it at a diagonal. I mean, there's just so much to chew on, that hard to binge, because if you like comics, you look at it and go, oh my god, like this is pure comics, and you want to dive in and figure it out and digest it, and it's always cool to revisit Herriman, even if it's not my favorite for a story. It's like a lesson, a life lesson in comics.
I like that. That sounds good to me.
No, that sounds really good to me.
Yeah.
And again, I'm still literally like, because I love jazz and I love poetry, and I don't think I quite looked at This Is That while I was looking at it before. So now I want to revisit it, and I can already see the jazz just flipping through pages at varying speeds without bothering to read the words. I start feeling that rhythm, that so yeah, I think it's going to be a while before I figure out how I want to read Crazy Cat. I know I'm going to be reading more. I'm now going through various iterations of reprints of Crazy Cat, because I almost wonder, and I've thought this with a number of her books, and I definitely thought it with Crazy Cat as I was reading through. There are so many different ways that you could put together a collection, in terms of how you chose what strips and why, what order you put them in. I mean, the tendency is to go chronological. One of the things I liked about the Sunday strips in the comic art of George Herriman that you recommended is that it goes back, and I mean, it's mostly chronological in terms of when it's in black and white, they're chronological, and when it's in color, they're chronological, but it goes back and forth between the black and white and color Sundays. So I almost think that you could be even more interesting than that. You could go, here are the more straightforward story ones. Here are the pure jazz. Here are the fantasy tales. Here are the
It's not a strip that needs to be read chronologically, as far as I can tell. I think that's an interesting idea to think about, like, how would you parse it out? But then getting one a day in a newspaper is a really good way of parsing it out.
It is. It is. It's so hard. It's so hard to manage to, like, recreate that in modern life, though. Because it's like you have to
decide. You have to go,
set
I'm
the
just
book
gonna
or whatever
look at it
somewhere
one a
where
day.
you know that you can wake up and I'm just gonna read the next one and then set it down and go take my shower.
Well, I don't know if this is the ideal way of doing it, but I've mentioned before, and I'll say it probably for the rest of my life. I do subscribe to Go Comics and Comics Kingdom, and you can subscribe to the Crazy Cat archives on Comics
Okay.
Kingdom, so you
Oh,
can
wow.
get
See,
a
see,
daily a
you're
day. They
selling it
don't have the
even
Sunday.
more to me. I've looked at them and I haven't actually jumped and taken the plunge yet, but I'm pretty certain I will. I love the
So
title of this one. There was a book called George Harriman's Krazy and Ignatz: The Limbo of Unconsciousness.
Mhm.
But you know, when I look at Crazy Cat, I mentioned, the term jazz, right? I mean, so if you look at Winsor McCay, and you just see how sort of like intricate, and there's a lot of lines, and it's Art Deco-y, and heavily rendered. But if you get the opportunity to look at a piece of original art of Crazy Cat, like, I mean, I think at one point at the Society of Illustrators, Spiegelman brought his collection and just like dumped it at the society for people to see, and you could see a McKay and you go, oh wow, look how intricate. But you look at Crazy Cat and you go, look how loose it is, look how raw it is, and so in that sense, it almost feels improvisational, like jazz in that way. And then you could flash forward and use a different term. It's like if Winsor McCay is Art Deco, you look at Crazy Cat and go, it's jazz. You look at Gary Panter and you go, it's punk, right? Like, you look at it and you just go, oh, that is what these lines are. It's like he's Panter would thrash at the page with his lines, but the looseness of Herriman on the Crazy Cat art pages is it's undeniable and fun, and it's that's a little bit more of what I was talking about when it comes to jazz. It's just it's just the looseness of it in a period of time when there was like Art Deco and Arthur Rackham, just like all these guys that were super intricate, and it's like, here's a guy who's like, nope, doing
right.
it my way, from my brain, from a completely different perspective, because here I am passing, and I'm just different than every other guy at the board. It's cool. Crazy Cat's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
And
even
he
know how
says,
to add to that. That was really well. Jonathan got all extemporaneous, and I don't say.
Two beers. That's what it takes. That's what it takes.
well, he
So
says often that
what?
he's a hefty cat. So how far away is that from being a hep cat?
Oh,
A hep cat?
Yeah, I was reading, there's a few where he was like, I'm a hefty cat, HEPPY
Huh.
cat. And so I don't know the origin of the term
Well,
hep cat, but
I mean, Harriman was in New Orleans until his early 20s, just in like the early. I mean, jazz would have been played, but not recorded yet.
The intertubes say hep cat originated in the U.S. between 1930 and 1935. A jazz performer or admirer, especially swing, a person who is hep or a hipster.
interesting. I never thought about that.
Cab Calloway used it,
Hmm.
which defines hep cat as a guy who knows all the answers, understands jive.
Yeah, I like Cab Calloway.
Right, I'm going to go put my kid to bed.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna sign off. But it was lovely to
well, I
chat with you
think
folks.
it's. I mean, does anybody have anything more that they want to toss in? We might actually be. It might be, Jonathan, that you summed it up. Is what I'm saying.
My verbal vomiting.
I see your kid, just like he's
Oh
he's
yeah, right. Because I
appearing
have this
brick on and
background.
oh, there he is again.
Now, Bob knows what my background is. The listeners will have no clue what we're even
Right.
referring to. But Tad, you don't know what my background is, right? Like you don't know.
I mean, I assumed that the bricks had something to do with the brick that Ignatz rose.
Those were Ignatz Awards. They're given
Okay.
out at the Small Press Expo each year
go.
in Bethesda, Maryland. And of
Okay.
course, the Ignatz Award named
It's a
after.
brick.
There you go. And it's a brick. And what they say every time that they give out this award is they go, "Hey, just so you know, the stand that it rests on, it's not secured to the stand, and so people have broken things by having that brick fall on a foot, fall on a table." No one at SPX has discovered epoxy, apparently, or mortar. I just.
I mean, that's not.
But it's fun. You're always hoping
that,
for someone to break a toe.
I would say that it shouldn't be connected because I mean, you need
No,
to be able to
no,
pick
it's
it up
true.
and.
It's true, and it's part of the fun, which is, I mean, because it's like, you certainly don't want a cartoonist to break a finger or anything like that. But if a cartoonist breaks a toe, I mean, who cares? They'll still be able to draw.
Indeed.
All right. Anyway,
I love it.
I'm gonna put this one to bed.
Yeah,
Lovely to chat with you guys.
Next
Good
up,
night.
Jonathan, is Nancy.
night.
So
What, Nancy? Ernie Bushmiller?
Nancy's next.
Yeah.
All right, I'll call Dennis Kitchen and see what his schedule is like.
Well, I already talked to him.
You did?
He's interested.
Of course he is.
Awesome.
So is Caitlin McGurk.
Oh,
So.
great.
Okay, and you
Caitlin
gotta.
would be
I mean,
great.
like, look, you don't need me. You gotta get Mark
Oh, I mean-
Newgarden, of course.
Yeah.
Get the real people.
We'll figure it all out. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not going to ban you. You're part of the club. So,
Cult of Nancy.
all right.
And Bill Griffith too
Yeah.
now, right? Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
ciao.
If anyone who hasn't
everybody.
read Three Rocks,
Have a good night.
It's on my reading list for the next one. Bob, Sean, anything more to add? I've run out of words.
I probably said too much. I love
I
this
don't
strip.
think so. You've made me. You and Jonathan have made me like it more. That was my hope going in. You've given me ideas on different ways to read it, to maybe appreciate it that much more. Because again, it didn't take looking at it for long to know why you liked it. At some point I need to have a Chris Ware roundtable because Chris Ware is the modern creator that I've spent the most time with going, I don't doubt any of the people who call him a genius, but I'm not connecting yet. Or I'll connect for a little bit and then not. You know what I mean? I have found that trying to go back and read him through the original Acme novelty library works better for me than reading the collections so far. Which I think it plays back into some. I'm used to the monthly comic / graphic novel era, and that's it. I mean, just like it's different to read monthly comics versus collections or graphic novels.
Sure.
Right.
It's really different to read dailies or weeklies.
And Chris's work was originally serialized, so
Exactly.
it's kind of a similar situation where if you look at a page, you can get very absorbed in that page, and maybe that's enough to have that moment.
Yeah.
And then the next day look at another one.
Maybe I should have my next read of Jimmy Corrigan be over the course of a year rather than over the course of a month.
Maybe. Speed is overrated.
Well, and while I get that, I'm still so used to being able to construct my pace in a sitting rather than having to think hard about whether it's better to set this down and come back tomorrow or the next day or whatever. I mean, it's one of the reasons that that comics are my favorite medium is that I get to decide how fast or slow, but I can almost always do a story in a sitting, 2 or 3 at most, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not having, because this one of the reasons I stopped reading nearly as many novels is I would get busy for a week and not pick up the book, and then I'd have to figure out where I was again. Whereas with a comic, uh, odds are if I didn't finish it in a sitting, I'd finish it the next day. So I'm still, I think because I know that for the entire, with the possible exception of Charlie Brown, for the entire comic strip book club, I've been the one that's read the least for any given episode, and I think it has everything to do with comic strips. I mean, they're not quite dead now, but they were getting less and less space in the newspaper by the time I was 10.
Well, it's a very specific format, and you suggested doing this. I happen to love a lot of these strips, but I understand people don't necessarily need to go back. There's too much to read now that you can keep up. I mean, there's too much great stuff to read now that you can't keep up with. So I understand if people are like, oh, enough, I have to draw my boundary somewhere. I get that.
No, I get that too. But as a lover of the medium, that's the other reason that I love this club, is it challenges me to spend some time with something that I might not otherwise spend time with, because it's such a different reading experience from everything else. It's like taking the same tools and building an airplane rather than a house.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. I hope it comes across. I'll have to ask my mom. My mom's certainly listening at some point. So hi, Mom. Hi, John. I hope that it comes across that I love. This is probably actually, I mean, it is one of the reasons that this is the club that we mess around the most to get everybody to be able to come. Because I love getting the input on these, in part because, with the exception of Charlie Brown, with the exception of Watterson when we do them, which we'll have to do at some point, because that's the one comic strip that I have read all of multiple times. But I can also sit down and do hours of Calvin and Hobbes.
Yeah.
So that will probably actually be part of that conversation, is why is Calvin and Hobbes so different? Because even in modern comic strips, I can't do the same amount of them in like I've been working on Bloom County, and I can't do nearly as many Bloom County before it's like, okay, I'm done with Bloom County for right now. I've read Doonesbury on and off in big chunks through the years, but you get so far and it's like, okay, I need a break from Doonesbury. So yeah, one of these days I will pull the trigger and actually get my comic strip services and get my daily email sent to me with a strip of this and a strip of that and a strip of that other thing. Because more and more I'm realizing that part of the genius of these is that they very much knew their audience. They knew that their audience was reading them every day, or kind of every day, or would only read the Sundays, but most importantly, wasn't holding on to yesterday's or the day before that. You had to be careful about doing long stories, because if they didn't know what was going on, they couldn't just dial up 3 weeks earlier and go, oh, there it is. No, it was lining a birdcage.
Right.
I think there's even a publisher or bookstore named after that, isn't there?
Birdcage bottom books.
Right. So yeah. So Bob, thank you for making me read more Krazy and Ignatz, and I'm certain I'll continue reading more. Just like, I mean, as I look around, I still have most of the comic strip books that we've read. I've got them somewhere around my space because I'll still pick up, a Steve Canyon and flip through a few more pages or whatever. Um, so yeah, it's definitely it's a time capsule to a different age and a different way of entertaining ourselves. Um, and it's always a blast. But I've done enough expounding now. So, any last words, Sean?
No, I really enjoyed this, and it's a pleasure to be introduced. I'd never read Captain Easy, and I'd never read Krazy Kat until these book club meetings. So I really love it.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it too. I never cease to be amazed at the breadth of the comics medium. Every time I turn around, I get to see something new and different, or old that's being done again, but because that's part of the fun for me in Krazy Kat too, is I can see the things that I could probably draw a line through like 6 other books to something now. And like the author now doesn't even know that like Krazy Kat is part of their DNA, or may not know that Krazy Kat is part of their DNA. I'm certain that there are huge numbers of people who don't realize Winsor McCay is part of their DNA. I didn't realize how much Winsor McCay was part of the DNA of all of the comics that we read until I was at the Billy Ireland and Caitlin was showing me pages, and I'm like, he was doing that in when? I thought doing pages like this was a modern invention. So yeah, thank you guys again. I forget the exact date, but we'll reconvene in like 3 months. Well, a little less than 3 months because we wound up pushing this one back. We'll reconvene sometime in July for Nancy. I really want Caitlin to be part of that. So while it's on the calendar, I'm going to be shooting that date to Caitlin, and if it's not good for her, we're gonna try to find what is good for her. Because I mean, they put together the whole Nancy exhibit at the Billy Ireland over the
Yeah,
summer.
I'm really sorry to miss that. It's
Yeah, I
opening
missed
at
it
the end of
too.
this month,
Yeah.
May
Yeah.
25th or something, or at least
Something
that's when the
like that.
event is.
Yeah.
The show
Yeah,
will be up.
it's running for a while. I'm planning to drive down sometime.
Well, let
Great.
me know, and maybe we can split driving duties.
Okay.
And or maybe we could, I mean, I don't know what your finances are, but half of the reason that I've got it like as a maybe is I don't know when I can afford to go spend the night in Columbus. But if there are 2 drivers, we might be able to be batshit crazy and do it in a day.
It's about, I went there for a wedding. It's about 5 hours, I think.
Yeah.
5.5.
Yeah. So if one of us drove in the morning and the other drove on the way home.
Yeah.
I mean, I did do a day trip to Minneapolis a couple years ago, and it was crazy. By the time I got home, I was spent, but it was worth it. So,
Before we go, I should just mention I'm not tabling, and I don't have a book out, but I am going to be at San Diego
oh wow,
this year. So
Oh.
if you're scheduling the Nancy one, I would love to sit in on that, but I won't be
Okay.
available that last weekend. But
okay.
maybe
Okay, well,
someone will see me wandering around
So
San
are you
Diego.
just going to San Diego, or are you
Well,
on a?
Creota's doing a panel on graphic medicine, and I'm in talks to do a panel, but I don't know
That
if
would be
that's coming
awesome.
through. And it's kind of spur of the moment. But yeah, I'll be there. Anyway,
Well, I know that Sean is also
I
often at San
hopefully we
Diego.
can.
So
Yeah, hopefully
that
we
would
can
be great.
see each other.
yeah,
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
realize you went out that way. Great. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be in touch beforehand. Yeah.
I think
Be
it's
nice to see- I
unlikely.
really
that
don't
I'll
know what
be-
I'm doing for a lot of the
Yeah.
time.
I think it's unlikely that I'll be at San Diego, but one never knows.
Mhm.
But yeah, no. People should definitely look for Bob. Bob is one of the most fun people to talk to in comics. And I'm so glad that he keeps coming back to talk to me because
Oh,
he
thanks.
you
Thanks,
were
Ted.
one of
This
our
is fun.
first interview subjects and like the one that taught me, oh, so we can become friends too. That's kind of awesome. So let me wrap it up before we do too much of the personal stuff on air. For Bob Sikoriak, for Sean Harklerode, for the putting his kid to bed, Jonathan Baylis. This has been the Comic Strip Book Club on 22 Panels. We will see you after the next page.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22 Panels Podcast.